Now imagine this. You walk into a room and without saying a single word, the air shifts. People straighten their posture. They think twice before speaking to you. Not because you threatened them, not because you raised your voice, but because they know without a shadow of a doubt that you are not someone to be played with. Now here's the truth. Most people don't want to admit disrespect doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It happens because at some point you allowed it. Not because you're weak, not because you didn't know better, but because you believe that being understanding, kind, or patient would make someone change, and instead it taught them something very different. It taught them they could get away with it. I'm here to tell you, the moment you decide that your peace, your dignity, and your self-worth are not negotiable, that moment will be the last time they ever dare to disrespect you. So today I'm going to give you something far more powerful than how to clap back or how to make them regret it. I'm going to show you how to walk in such a way, speak in such a way, and live in such a way that anyone who even thinks about crossing you will think twice, 3 times, and then back off without you having to say a word. And when you master this, you'll realize something incredible. They didn't suddenly become more respectful. You became someone they can't afford to lose and can't afford to disrespect. Let's get something straight. The way people treat you is a direct reflection of the standards you set for yourself. You can't demand royal treatment when you carry yourself like you're disposable. You can't expect respect when you hand out access to your time, your energy, and your attention like it's free candy. The world doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand through your presence, your behavior, and your boundaries. When you truly understand your value, everything about you changes. The way you speak, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself in every room you enter. You stop chasing people. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking yourself to make others feel comfortable. You realize that if someone doesn't see your worth, it's not your job to convince them. Your worth doesn't go down because someone else doesn't recognize it. It's not a stock market that rises and falls with their approval. It's constant, it's solid, and it's non-negotiable. But here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't know their worth because they've been trained not to. From an early age, you were taught to be nice, don't make waves, just let it go. And while kindness is powerful, it becomes a weapon against you when it's used to excuse bad behavior. When you value keeping the peace over protecting your dignity, you are essentially saying, I will let you harm me if it keeps you comfortable. That's not peace. That's self-betrayal. Redefining your value means rewriting the rules for how people interact with you. It's not about being arrogant. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing deep in your bones that you are worthy of being treated with basic human decency and then adding your own premium on top of that. And let me tell you something, value is not declared, it's demonstrated. You don't have to walk around saying, I know my worth. You show it through your choices, through your discipline, through what you tolerate, and more importantly, what you don't. The fastest way to teach someone how valuable you are is to remove yourself the moment they show you they can't respect you. You don't argue. You don't beg. You don't write long essays about how much they hurt you. You simply remove your presence because your absence is often the loudest statement you can make. Think about the people in your life you hold in high regard. Why do you respect them? Is it because they scream for it? No. Is it because they explain to you over and over why you should treat them well? It's because their standards are so clear, their self-respect so intact, that you know instinctively where the line is. That's what redefining your value looks like. You become a person whose boundaries are silently understood. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They think value is about external things, money, beauty, titles, or achievements. And while those can certainly influence how others perceive you, they're not the core of your value. Your real value comes from your internal state, your confidence, your self-trust, your discipline, your ability to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your worth. Someone can have all the money and beauty in the world, but if they tolerate disrespect, their value in the eyes of others drops instantly. Redefining your value starts with the way you talk to yourself. Every time you say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, or I guess this is the best I can get, you're lowering your own price tag. If you wouldn't let someone else speak to you in a degrading way, why do you do it to yourself? The standard starts internally. You must train your mind to align with the reality you want, not the fears you've lived through. Next, you need to physically embody that value. This doesn't mean you have to wear designer clothes or walk around like a celebrity. It means you take care of yourself. Your posture is upright, your voice is steady, your eye contact is firm. You move with intention, not in a rush to please or appease. People read these cues faster than they process your words. Before you've even introduced yourself, your energy is already spoken. And here's the thing, once you redefine your value, you will lose people. Some will feel threatened. Some will resent your boundaries. Some will try to guilt trip you back into the old version of yourself that accepted less. Let them go. Your worth is not a negotiation table where everyone gets a vote. It's a private decision you make about yourself every single day. When you commit to living in alignment with your value, something shifts in the energy you project. You no longer have to handle disrespect because it stops showing up as often. People sense when you are not the one to test, so they sense when there will be consequences. And those who still try, they'll get one chance. And when they fail, they'll quickly learn that losing access to you was their biggest mistake. Remember this, you are the price, not the bargain bin. You don't chase, you choose. You don't beg, you decide, and you don't settle, you set the tone. The day you fully embrace your value is the day you stop worrying about who respects you, because you'll naturally attract the ones who do and repel the ones who don't. That's not magic, that's not luck, that's the natural consequence of knowing your worth and refusing to discount it for anyone. Boundaries are not about being mean, controlling, or pushing people away. They are about protecting the most important thing you own, your peace, your dignity, and your self-respect. When you have no boundaries, you are essentially telling the world, come in, take what you want, I'll deal with the damage later. And then we wonder why people keep taking advantage, why they keep pushing, why the disrespect never stops. Here's the truth. People don't magically know how to treat you. They learn by observing how you respond when they cross a line. If you have no line, they'll keep going until you are drained, angry, and questioning yourself. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. Without them, you lose yourself piece by piece every time you tolerate something that deep down you know is wrong. Setting an unshakable boundary starts with knowing exactly what you will and will not accept. This sounds simple, but most people skip this step. They feel something is off, but they haven't defined it for themselves, so they can't communicate it to others. You need to get brutally honest with yourself. What are your non-negotiables? What behavior immediately makes you lose trust? What patterns drain your energy or make you feel small? Once you identify those, you create a clear mental line that no one, not even the people you love, gets to cross. The next step is communication. A lot of people make the mistake of hinting, dropping clues, or hoping someone will just get it. That's not setting a boundary, that's playing charades. When you want to be respected, you have to speak clearly and directly. You don't need to explain for an hour why something bothers you. You don't need to convince them to agree. You simply state it, this doesn't work for me. I don't allow people to speak to me that way. If this continues, I will remove myself from the situation. No over-apologizing, no softening it so they feel better about crossing you. Boundaries are not suggestions, they are statements of fact. But here's where the real strength comes in, enforcement. So if you set a boundary but don't follow through when it's crossed, you've just taught them it wasn't real. This is why so many people keep getting disrespected. They set the rule, but when the rule is broken, they do nothing. An unshakable boundary means there is a consistent consequence. If you say you will leave the room, you leave the room. If you say you won't tolerate shouting, you end the conversation. If you say you won't accept lying, you cut off trust immediately. You do not bend your own rules for anyone because the second you do, you've told them your boundaries are negotiable. I know this is hard, especially when it's someone you care about. There will be moments where your heart says, maybe I should give them another chance. And yes, people can change, but change only happens when they face the reality of losing access to you. If you keep giving unlimited passes, you're not teaching them to treat you better. You're teaching them you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. Boundaries also require you to be comfortable with discomfort. When you enforce them, people will react. Some will get defensive. Some will accuse you of being cold or selfish. Some will try to guilt you into letting things slide. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. That's a sign your boundaries are working. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will be the loudest when you start building them. Stand your ground anyway. An unshakable boundary is also about how you treat yourself. If you say you're going to take time to rest, but you keep pushing yourself to exhaustion, you've just broken your own boundary. If you promise yourself you won't engage with toxic people, but you reply to their messages out of boredom or habit, you've just crossed your own line. You can't expect others to respect your boundaries if you're not willing to respect them yourself. And here's something people don't talk about enough. Boundaries are not walls. You're not shutting the world out. You're creating a door, and you get to decide who gets to walk through it and under what conditions. The right people won't see your boundaries as a problem. In fact, they'll feel safer around you because they'll know exactly where they stand. It's only the wrong people who will try to make you feel bad for having them. Think about the strongest, most respected individuals you've ever met. They don't have to shout to be taken seriously. They don't beg for loyalty or kindness. They have an unspoken code, and if you break it, you're out. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. And clarity is what keeps you from being manipulated, drained, and disrespected. When you commit to unshakable boundaries, something shifts inside you. You start to feel lighter because you're no longer carrying the weight of everyone else's demands. You start to feel more confident because you trust yourself to protect your own well-being. And you start to notice that the people who remain in your life are the ones who truly value and respect you. This is the thing about boundaries. They don't just keep bad behavior out. They also keep your self-worth in. They remind you every single day that you matter, that your voice matters, that your peace matters. And the moment you stop apologizing for them, you'll realize just how powerful you really are. When someone disrespects you and you have no boundaries, it's like leaving your door wide open in the middle of the night. When you have weak boundaries, it's like closing the door, but leaving it unlocked. When you have unshakable boundaries, the door is closed, locked, and only open for those who have proven they deserve to enter. But that's how you protect yourself. That's how you teach others to treat you. And that's how you make sure no one ever disrespects you again. One of the biggest reasons disrespect continues in relationships, workplaces, and even families is because bad behavior gets rewarded. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. It doesn't always look like handing someone a prize for treating you poorly. Sometimes the reward is simply your attention, your forgiveness, or your willingness to carry on as if nothing happened. When you keep giving people access to you after they've crossed the line, you're showing them there's no real consequence. And human nature is simple. If there's no consequence, there's no reason to change. Think about it. When a child throws a tantrum and the parent gives them candy to make them quiet, the child learns that bad behavior works. Adults are no different. If someone disrespects you and you continue to answer their calls, meet them, or engage in deep conversations, they learn that they can mistreat you and still keep the benefits of being in your life. That's the reward they're getting. Sometimes the reward is emotional. You might pour your heart out, telling them how much they hurt you, thinking you're helping them understand. But what you're really doing is giving them the attention they wanted. Even if the attention is negative, it's still energy directed toward them. For people who thrive on control or drama, this is fuel. They don't care that you're upset. They care that they still have the power to make you feel something. Other times, the reward is practical. You keep helping them. You keep showing up for them. You keep lending them money, giving them rides, or making excuses for them to others. You tell yourself you're being the bigger person, but all you're doing is teaching them that no matter what they do, you'll still be there to clean up the mess. To stop rewarding bad behavior, the first thing you have to do is recognize it in real time. When someone disrespects you, breaks a promise, lies, manipulates, or speaks to you in a degrading way, you have to stop the interaction right there. You don't keep debating. You don't try to win the argument. You end it. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have. When you refuse to feed the situation with your words, energy, or presence, you remove the very thing that keeps the bad behavior alive. This is why walking away is so powerful, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to remove the reward. The reward is your time. The reward is your emotional investment. The reward is your presence. When you take that away, the other person has no choice but to either reflect or go find someone else who will tolerate their behavior. The second step is consistency. If you remove the reward once but give in the next time, you've just taught them to push harder until you give in again. Consistency is what tells people, I mean it. That means if you decide not to answer their calls after they've crossed a boundary, you don't break that silence just because they send you a nice message. If you decide you won't help them anymore, you don't make an exception because you feel bad. The moment you make exceptions, you weaken the entire lesson. Now, stopping the reward doesn't mean you have to be cold or cruel. It's not about punishing the other person. It's about protecting yourself. You can calmly say, this doesn't work for me, and end the conversation. You can say, I'm not comfortable continuing this, and walk away. You don't owe them a detailed explanation or a chance to negotiate your boundaries. Your actions speak far louder than your words. And here's the truth. Not everyone will like this new version of you. Some people will call you distant. Others will accuse you of being dramatic or unforgiving. That's because they benefited from the old you, the one who kept giving, even when they didn't deserve it. Let them talk. Their discomfort is not your problem. It's a sign that the dynamic is changing and you're no longer feeding behavior that harms you. Stopping the reward also means you stop making excuses for people. How many times have you said, they didn't mean it like that, or they're just stressed, or they're going through a lot? While empathy is important, overusing it to justify mistreatment sends the message that you'll tolerate anything as long as there's an excuse. When someone values you, they won't keep crossing the same line, no matter how stressed or tired they are. And when you value yourself, you won't let excuses replace accountability. One of the hardest parts about breaking this cycle is dealing with the silence that comes after. When you stop rewarding bad behavior, you might hear nothing from that person for a while. They might pull away completely, and your mind will try to convince you that you're losing something valuable. But in reality, you're losing nothing. You're making space for better. Sometimes the absence of chaos feels strange because you're used to it. That's not loss, that's healing. Over time, as you consistently remove rewards for bad behavior, you'll notice a shift. People will either step up and treat you better or they'll step out of your life. Either outcome is a win. You'll stop wasting your energy on people who drain you, and you'll start attracting those who respect you from the start. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require you to change anyone else. You don't have to convince them to see your worth. You don't have to spend hours explaining why what they did was wrong. You simply live in a way that says, if you want to be in my life, here's the standard. If you can't meet it, I'll remove myself. It's quiet, it's firm, and it's powerful. Because here's the bottom line. When you stop rewarding bad behavior, you stop training people to mistreat you. You teach them that respect is the only currency that buys your time, your energy, and your presence. And once they understand that, they'll think twice before ever disrespecting you again. Emotional control is one of the most underrated forms of power you can have. Most people think strength is about who can shout the loudest, argue the hardest, or win the most battles with words. But true strength is the ability to remain steady, composed, and unshaken when someone is deliberately trying to provoke you. Because here's the reality, disrespect often isn't just about the words spoken. It's about the reaction it pulls from you. And the moment you let someone see they've rattled you, you've given them control. When you lose control of your emotions, you hand over your power. You start reacting based on their behavior rather than your own values. You say things you didn't plan to say, make decisions you later regret, and sometimes escalate a situation that could have ended quickly if you had stayed calm. The person who can maintain composure in chaos always comes out ahead because their actions are intentional, not impulsive. Building emotional control starts with awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. You need to start catching yourself in those split seconds before you react. That moment when your chest tightens, your voice rises, or your thoughts race. That's your signal. If you miss it, you'll fall into automatic reactions, which usually play right into the other person's hands. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about acknowledging the feeling, but choosing not to let it run the show. One of the most effective tools for this is pausing. When someone says or does something that makes your blood boil, Take a breath before you respond. That pause might be 3 seconds. It might be 30. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you give yourself space to choose your words and actions. People who want to manipulate you thrive on urgency. They want you to snap, to yell, to lose your cool so they can either play the victim or use your reaction against you. By pausing, you strip away that power. Another part of emotional control is learning to separate the person from your self-worth. Just because someone disrespects you doesn't mean their words define you. If a stranger on the street yells something nasty, it doesn't change your value. If someone close to you says something cruel, it reveals more about them than it does about you. The moment you start internalizing every comment, you give them free rent in your mind. You have to decide whose opinion actually matters, and then filter out the rest. Maintaining emotional control also means being strategic. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to walk away without saying a word. This doesn't mean you're avoiding confrontation. It means you're choosing when and how to address it. You're playing the long game instead of letting one heated moment dictate your actions. It also requires mastering your body language. Even if your mind is calm, your body can betray you. Crossed arms, tapping feet, rolling eyes, or sharp tones can reveal more than you want to show. When you're in a high-stakes situation, be intentional with your presence. Keep your shoulders back, your face neutral, and your tone steady. This doesn't just project control, it reinforces it internally. Your body can help your mind stay calm when you consciously adopt a composed posture. A big part of building this control is preparation. If you know certain situations or people tend to trigger you, rehearse your response in advance. Think through what you'll say and how you'll say it. Practice keeping your tone even and your sentences short. This way, when the moment comes, you're not scrambling to come up with something. You're executing a plan. You also need to manage your emotional state outside of conflict. If you're constantly stressed, sleep-deprived, or overwhelmed, it's much harder to keep your cool when things go wrong. Emotional control is built in the quiet moments as much as in the heated ones. Through daily habits like meditation, exercise, and time alone, you strengthen your ability to stay grounded, no matter what happens. One of the hardest lessons in emotional control is understanding that not reacting doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself more than you care about proving a point in the moment. You can still take action, you can set boundaries, remove people from your life, or make changes to protect yourself, but you do it from a place of clarity, not chaos. People will test you. They'll try to push your buttons just to see if they can still get to you. And when they fail, they'll either adjust their behavior or remove themselves entirely. That's the beauty of emotional control. It naturally filters out people who thrive on drama. When you stop giving them the satisfaction of your reaction, you become boring to them. And boring to toxic people is exactly what you want to be. This kind of control doesn't happen overnight. You will have moments where you slip, where you react before you think, where your emotions get the best of you. That's normal. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every time you catch yourself and choose a calmer response, you're rewiring your mind to operate from strength instead of impulse. And here's a secret. Once you've built true emotional control, people start treating you differently without you having to say a word. They sense that you're not easily shaken. They notice that their usual tactics don't work on you. You start to carry an energy that says, I'm not here to play games. I decide how I respond, and nothing you do will change that. That's when disrespect becomes rare. Not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because you've become someone who commands respect through the way you carry yourself. And when you have that level of control, you no longer have to fear someone trying to get under your skin because you know they'll never succeed. There's a saying that actions speak louder than words, but most people don't really understand just how powerful that is until they live it. You can tell people all day long to respect you, value you, or treat you better. But if your actions don't match your words, they will believe your actions every single time. The truth is, people don't learn how to treat you from what you say. They learn from what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from. When someone disrespects you, you can give a speech about how unacceptable it is, but if you still stay, still answer their calls, still give them access to your time and energy, your words become meaningless. On the other hand, you can say almost nothing, and simply take decisive action, ending the conversation, cutting off contact, removing your presence, and that silence will teach the lesson more effectively than any argument ever could. Your actions are the proof of your self-respect. They show whether you mean what you say or whether you just like the idea of self-respect when it's convenient. When your behavior consistently aligns with your standards, people stop testing you, not because they've suddenly become better people, but because they know they will lose the privilege of being in your space the moment they cross the line. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they can talk someone into treating them better. They explain, they justify, they repeat themselves, hoping that one more conversation will make it click. But people rarely change because of words alone. They change when the cost of staying the same becomes too high, and your actions are what create that cost. For example, if you keep telling someone you won't tolerate lateness, but you still wait for them every time, your actions say lateness is fine. If you keep saying you won't put up with disrespect, but you stay in the relationship, your actions say disrespect is acceptable. It's not about being perfect or cold. It's about sending a clear, consistent message through what you do, not what you say. Letting your actions speak louder than your words also means investing your energy in what you control yourself. You can't control if someone decides to gossip about you, but you can control whether you dignify it with a response. You can't control if someone doubts you, but you can control whether you prove them wrong through results, not arguments. You can't control if someone underestimates you, but you can control whether you quietly outgrow them and leave them behind. And here's the thing, actions don't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes the most impactful action is simply not engaging. When someone tries to provoke you and you stay calm, that's action. When someone demands your attention and you don't give it, that's action. When someone expects you to bend your boundaries and you simply say no without further explanation, that's action. These moments might seem small, but they build a reputation. Over time, people come to know you as someone who means what they say. Living this way requires discipline because it's tempting to try to explain yourself to make others understand. But explanations can water down your position. The more you talk, the more room you give for negotiation. Actions close that door. They're final, they don't invite debate. Another important element is consistency. One strong action won't change the way people treat you if the rest of your behavior contradicts it. If you walk away once but then go back the next week, your actions tell them your boundary is flexible. If you say no today, but yes tomorrow, under pressure, your actions tell them persistence will eventually get them what they want. To truly let your actions speak, they have to say the same thing every time. Letting your actions speak louder than your words also changes how you see yourself. Every time you follow through on your standards, you reinforce your own self-worth. You start to trust yourself more. You start to feel less anxious about being disrespected because you know you won't stick around for it. That inner confidence radiates. People can sense when you won't be moved by pressure, guilt, or flattery. And that energy alone makes them think twice before trying to cross you. This doesn't mean you never speak up. There's value in using your voice, but it means you don't rely on words alone. You back them up with action so there's no doubt about where you stand. If someone disrespects you and you say, that's not okay, the lesson isn't in the sentence. It's in what happens next. Do you stay or do you go? Do you engage or do you disengage? That's where the real teaching happens. You'll notice something interesting when you start living this way. You'll talk less about what you expect from people, and people will start meeting those expectations without you saying a word. Why? Because they've learned through experience that your boundaries aren't up for discussion. You don't need to make threats. You don't need to raise your voice. You simply follow through, and they adjust. And for those who don't adjust, your actions will remove them. That's the quiet beauty of this approach. It naturally filters out anyone who refuses to treat you with respect. It's not about punishing them. It's about protecting yourself. It's about living in alignment with the standard you've set for your life. When your actions are consistent, clear, and firm, you stop having to demand respect. You command it. People see that you are serious, that your words aren't just talk, that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And when they know that, they will either rise to meet your standard or step out of your way. That's why letting your actions speak louder than your words is so powerful, because in the end, words fade, but actions leave a mark. And if you want to live a life where disrespect is rare, you have to make sure every action you take reinforces one unshakable truth. You will never accept less than you deserve. At the end of the day, respect is not something you beg for, negotiate for, or plead for. It's something you command by the way you live your life. When you redefine your value, set unshakable boundaries, stop rewarding bad behavior, build unshakable emotional control, and let your actions speak louder than your words, you create a reality where disrespect simply cannot survive. People treat you according to the standards you enforce. And when those standards are rooted in self-worth and self-respect, they have no choice but to rise to meet them or be removed from your life entirely. The most powerful transformation doesn't happen when they finally say, "I'm sorry," or when they start treating you better. The real transformation happens when you decide that you will never again allow anyone to disturb your peace, damage your dignity, or question your value. The moment you make that decision and back it up with consistent action, the world will respond. Those who care will respect you more. Those who don't will drift away. Either way, you win. You're not here to be tolerated. You're here to be respected. You're here to live a life where people think twice before speaking to you in any way that diminishes who you are. And that starts with one single unwavering truth. You are worth protecting, you are worth honoring, and you will never again settle for less. Walk in that truth. And I promise you, they will never disrespect you again.